Welcome back to Movies and Cool Stuff, where I'm amazed to say that the third season of Search Party is finally here. Now, I honestly believe that I might be one of the biggest Search Party fans on the face of the planet. I've seen the first two seasons roughly 5 times each. I just can't help myself. They're so incredibly well made and they're so easily bingeable that I just keep on going back again and again. For that reason, my anticipation for season 3 was really through the roof, and we've had to wait so long for these 10 episodes that I'm not sure if they would ever have really lived up to my expectations. 2.5 years is a long time to wait for a single season of television. Do I think it was quite as good as season 1 and 2? I'd have to say no, and we'll get into that in a minute. But let's start off by talking about the things that I liked about season 3 on HBO Max. This is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion, so if you haven't seen season 3 yet, I encourage you to watch that before watching this video. If you're just looking for a general answer, is it worth watching? A resounding yes. Definitely watch Search Party if you haven't seen it yet. I love it. My MVP for this season has got to be Drew. John Reynolds did an incredible job portraying his character's just complete horror at what Dory has become, and it all culminates in a fantastic scene in the season 3 finale, which I was honestly just completely captivated by. I was a bit sad that Dory kind of lost her remaining shreds of likability. She really descended into the villainy that she has been flirting with for quite some time. But that being said, I did find it very interesting, this idea that she genuinely seemed to believe that she was innocent. I really think there was something quite disturbing about it, and Alia Shawkat gives an amazing performance as per usual. Some people have said that Dory's character change is a little bit abrupt. For me, I feel like her moral compass went off the side of the ferry with April at the end of season 2. There were some great new additions to the cast this season. I particularly really liked the 2 lawyers. So we had Cassidy, played by Shalita Grant. I think she was really good overall. When she was first introduced, I worried if she would be a little bit too silly and a little bit too cartoony. But as you move into the courtroom scenes, you actually see that there's a relatively competent lawyer somewhere in Cassidy, especially as she has such incredibly flimsy evidence to present. I actually think she did a pretty good job. We also had Bob, played by Louis Anderson, and this guy was absolutely hilarious. From the minute he stepped on screen, I was just in love with this character. I feel like I've known people like Bob before who just seem perpetually exhausted and you just kind of wonder, how are you still alive? And of course, when he read out the Urban Dictionary definition of pancaking someone, that was probably one of the highlights of the entire season for me. It was so brilliant. That being said, overall I did feel like season 3 didn't have quite as many memorable moments as the previous 2, and I do want to get into a few kind of minor criticisms that I have about this recent batch of episodes. Season 3 felt very different to what came before it because of course the characters were split up a lot more. You didn't get a lot of the main 4 really interacting with each other, and I understand that the story demanded that. Obviously Dory and Drew are in custody and Portia and Elliot weren't, so there wasn't really any organic way of putting them together. I understand that. But I did miss those 4 just kind of playing off each other and having that kind of fast-paced dialogue that we're used to. I think it didn't help that the individual characters' subplots weren't really as strong this time. I particularly didn't like the big twist regarding Elliot and his true family because I feel like it actually doesn't make a huge amount of sense. For me, I feel like you could really explain why Elliot is so incredibly selfish and entitled if he were to come from a very privileged family that kind of, you know, breeds that attitude into you. The fact that he doesn't, I think, actually makes him a much more confusing figure. And also, it doesn't really explain how he keeps up his very lavish lifestyle. I think we all just assumed that he was being funded by the bank of mum and dad. The fact that he's not, it's like, okay, well, literally, how does he have this kind of beautiful apartment and all these fancy clothes if he's got no money coming in from his family and he doesn't work? It just kind of breaks the show a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, fine, but it doesn't really make any sense. I think you definitely felt the absence of characters just kind of disappearing or becoming redundant, and of course I'm talking about Julian and Chantal. I think Brandon Michael Hall must have just been busy. I know that he's been the lead on 2 other TV shows in the time since season 2 aired, so I think probably they just couldn't get any time with him and they just had to shoot all his scenes in a day, and that's why he's barely in it. With Chantal, I thought her subplot was okay. I mean, it's always fun to kind of point and laugh at how incredibly unlikable she is, but you did get the distinct impression that it didn't really have anything to do with the rest of the story. Perhaps it will come into relevance in season 4, but it did just feel a little bit out of place. I think Portia's story was slightly better, albeit not super strong. But I did just kind of like her falling in with a group of friends who really appreciated her, because I do think that Dory has treated her horribly. I don't blame Portia for a minute for testifying against her, and I think that the statement she gives to the court is actually very emotional, because at the end of the day, it's all true. And I was very annoyed that Dory basically gave her the cold shoulder and forced her to apologise for that, when no word of it was a lie. I also feel like season 3 wasn't quite as stylishly executed as the previous two, and I think the main reason for that is because they were shackled very much to the courtroom environment. And I think having that as kind of the central stage of the series sort of limited their opportunities to experiment in the ways that they have done in the past. I also feel like Search Party is maybe losing touch with reality a little bit. What I love about the first 2 seasons is that they just feel so incredibly believable. Like, I really do feel that something like that could happen. Whereas season 3, there are a few moments where I was just like, this feels a little bit far-fetched. And the one that really sticks out in my mind is Dory's closing statement to the jury. And that was very well acted by Alia Shawkat, but I really have to question whether a judge would honestly allow a defendant to beg the jury for her life. That's essentially what happens, and I just feel like the judge would probably not allow that. Still, overall, I definitely did enjoy season 3. It's still one of my favourite shows for sure. I just felt that it wasn't quite up to the bar that they'd set with seasons 1 and 2, which, to be fair, was extremely high. Let's talk very quickly about the cliffhanger finale and what could possibly happen in season 4. So I have slightly mixed feelings about this, only because I didn't really love the Stalker character. Again, I felt he was a little bit far-fetched. That being said, I'm very intrigued to know what's going on. I mean, it was a very dark ending, and it really makes me wonder how exactly Dory's story is going to end. I'm not sure if this has been confirmed yet, so maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like season 4 is probably going to be the final season of Search Party. I can't really imagine them making that many more episodes of this show. And if that is the case, I'm really interested to see what becomes of Dory, whether the writers give her a happy ending or whether it's something much darker to kind of punish her for her misdeeds that she has done over the course of the series. I honestly think it could go either way. And I love that unpredictability, and that's why I'll definitely be coming back to watch season 4 when it arrives. So those are my thoughts on Search Party season 3. Overall, I did enjoy it. I don't want anybody to think that I'm hating on this show, because I'm honestly a very big fan. I just felt that season 3 maybe wasn't quite as sharp as seasons 1 and 2. Let me know what you thought of Search Party season 3 in the comments section below. I really wish more people were watching this show. It seems like it just flies under the radar constantly. And really, it deserves a lot more praise than it gets. Please do like the video if you enjoyed it, and perhaps even consider subscribing. If you like videos that are middling in quality and post extremely inconsistently, then you are really going to like this channel, I'll tell you that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.